Welcome back, folks. House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 3, The Burning Mill. An episode that's been described as nothing more than boring dialogue, cannon breaking. People are shouting, "Where are my dragons?" The fanbase is very divided on this episode, akin to the Bracken and Blackwood feud, who need no excuse to draw blood. Game of Thrones has always been a very dialogue-heavy TV show. Even in episodes where action was the main focus, the dialogue and characterization is so important. You need to build up to the episode 9s and the finales, the big moments. Characters need time to breathe. But I do agree, I'm not fond of all the changes they made. And the Rhaenyra and Alicent scene at the end at the Sept, I get the whole last-ditch effort to avoid war, because all the men on the councils, both black and green, are ready for this, whereas the women, Rhaenyra and Alicent and Rhaenys, are trying their best to avoid this, because they know the consequences. But I kind of feel this was perhaps a writer's excuse to get Alicent and Rhaenyra on screen one last time, remind us about the prince that was promised, tell us that Alicent did F up, it was the wrong Aegon, it was Aegon the Conqueror, not her son. Viserys never changed his mind, but it's far too late to go back on that. Blood has been spilt, and Aegon is up for this war. Now that his son has been killed, there's no going back. And speaking of Aegon, I absolutely chuckled when I saw him in the Conqueror's armour. It was like watching a kid try on his dad's suit. It's far too oversized. Perhaps a metaphor for him not being fit to be king. And his grandfather, Otto Hightower, has been gone, a week? Maybe longer on the show, I don't know. And the Greens are already falling apart. Love or hate Otto, he had what it took to be Hand of the King. Hand to 3 different kings. But I will say, Sir Criston Cole was more level-headed than I expected. After the whole sending in Arik Cargill mission last week, I was expecting him going in all guns blazing. But his strategy, especially when avoiding Moondancer in the open, and then not bringing Aegon at all, kind of makes him seem smart. He's nowhere near the same political level as Otto, but he is a commander, and he knows his way in battle. Another character who has been promoted to supporting cast is Alicent's brother, Gawain Hightower. We did see him during the tourney in Season 1, and if I'm correct, I believe he is mostly just a tourney knight, as green as the Hightower flame. And we saw that in this episode. If he was in charge, Moondancer would have burnt them all alive. But by the end of this encounter with a dragon, he seems to have his faith in Sir Criston Cole. Because if it wasn't for Cole, they would all be charcoal by now. And as for the Kingsguard, it's a joke now. For every Barristan the Bold, Arthur Dayne, the Cargill twins, you get Meryn Trance, and Aegon's bums basically. They don't take it seriously, they don't follow their oaths. The Kingsguard is meant to be the highest honour a knight can achieve, and it's just a joke now. But you find that a lot in the history of A Song of Ice and Fire. There have been many times the White Cloak has been soiled. But as for Aegon, the king, he's just a prick at this point. He's bullying Aemond again, and if you remember back to Season 1, it wasn't just the strong boys that were bullying Aemond, his brother Aegon was the ringleader. And that's continuing here. Even when Aemond and Vhagar are the only things stopping Daemon and Caraxes burning Aegon's ass. The other dragons are no match for the battle-hardened Caraxes or the swiftest dragon Meleys. Sunfire is the most beautiful dragon, but that's all it's got going for it. Dreamfire's a big girl, but Helena is no war rider. Aemond and Vhagar are 99% of the Green's power in the skies. Like Otto said, they are the single most powerful force in the realm, even though Vhagar perhaps is beyond Aemond's control, as we saw with Luke. And Daemon knows that he can't beat Vhagar on his own, he's mentioned this, and he's also praised Aemond's fighting skills with a sword. And that matchup will be one of the top moments in this show. Book readers know exactly what I'm talking about. As Alice River says to Daemon, "You will die here." And speaking of Daemon, he's in Harrenhal to form the Riverlands army for Rhaenyra. And I was totally getting horror movie vibes here. Kind of felt creepy, it was blackened out, it's a rundown castle. This castle may be the biggest in the realm, but it's not functioning. It's basically a glorified ruin now, and many say it's actually cursed. Because no matter who holds it, eventually some tragic fate awaits them and it gets passed on to the next person. And to keep up with the creepy vibes, Daemon has some sort of weirwood vision of young Rhaenyra played by Millie Alcock, and that was a surprise cameo. And Daemon sees the young Rhaenyra sewing on back the head of Jaehaerys, the young boy that Blood and Cheese killed. And is this them showing us that Daemon feels guilt for what happened to this little boy, being murdered whilst he slept. And also the choice of Rhaenyra perhaps is important, because this is the Rhaenyra that he groomed and used for his own purposes, and the same Rhaenyra that he sees as the one who took his position as heir. It was a very powerful scene, and solid character growth for Daemon. We can see his paranoia about potentially being poisoned, his insecurities of the position that he has in the Blacks. No, don't refer to me as Prince, refer to me as Your Grace. And I also kind of feel that Daemon worries about how history will remember him. Guys, this is probably my favourite sequence in the entire episode. It was dark, it was doomy, but they also managed to throw in a bit of comedy with the Castellan of Harrenhal, who is Lionel Strong, the former Hand of the King's uncle. And he has no love lost for Larys Strong, Clubfoot, the Master of Whisperers. And rightfully so, he blamed him for the death of Lionel and his son Harwin. And as for present-day Rhaenyra, she disagrees with her Black Council about jumping to war. They're all up for dragon warfare now, but I think about it, only a dragon rider knows the true damage these dragons will cause. And Princess Rhaenys has the same feelings, and she's become a strong ally to Rhaenyra, whereas when they first interacted in Season 1, they were a bit at odds, because Rhaenys, the queen who never was passed on for the Iron Throne as well, but I kind of see her as more of a mentor to Rhaenyra now. And I also appreciate her scenes of Corlys. They're very intimate, and you can tell they are the best couple on the show. They discuss the future of House Velaryon, they mention Joffrey being the heir, but also Rhaena being potentially Lord of the Tides, something which Corlys has doubts about both of them, because they're not sailors. And it's quite sad to see how far his line has fallen. He's the richest man in the realm with the most powerful navy. At one point, his heir, Leonor, was dragon rider to Seasmoke. He was married to the princess, to the heir. He could have been king consort one day. And then Laena, wife to Daemon Targaryen with 2 daughters. She also rode the most powerful dragon in the realm, Vhagar. But now the future of House Velaryon kind of seems uncertain. But it also seems like Corlys is back on the mend, and we will see him back on his ship in action very soon. We also get to meet another one of the future dragon seeds, Ulf the White, who claims to be the bastard son of Balon, father of King Viserys and Prince Daemon Targaryen. Like the other dragon seeds, he will claim a dragon, and his dragon will be Silverwing, the former dragon of good Queen Alicent, who he claims is his grandmother. And the other dragon seed that we've spent much time with was Hugh Hammer, who will claim Vermithor, the dragon that Daemon sung to in Season 1. And you kind of feel like a gatekeeper when these random dragon seeds who have questionable honour claim the dragons of such legendary and iconic figures. Let's get down to the final bit. Rhaenyra's last-ditch effort to avoid war. She sends her sons Joffrey, Viserys and Aegon away to the Vale with Rhaena, a position that she doesn't want. This is to keep them safe, as Dragonstone has been infiltrated once, and you don't want to have all your, excuse the pun, eggs in one basket. They could all be murdered together, your line could be broken. You have to separate the youngest ones. Keep Jace close by because he has to learn from you, but send the others away. Keep them safe. And this is a position that Rhaena isn't too fond of, because she kind of feels like she's been treated as useless. Rhaenyra sends Baela off on Moondancer on these missions. Rhaena just gets sent away. But we know she will have her own dragon one day morning, and I believe that is her egg in the basket, alongside 3 very, very familiar dragon eggs. And I believe the writers have confirmed these are Drogon, Rhaegal and Viserion, Daenerys' dragon eggs. So does that make Syrax their mother, not Dreamfire, like the books heavily hint? And in case you don't know, House of the Dragon has 3 types of dragons, mostly based around their skulls. Syrax is the horse-type dragon, Caraxes is the wolf-type dragon, and Dreamfire is the dinosaur type, and looks very, very similar. Basically a reskin of Drogon. So it makes sense that she is the mother, and it's heavily hinted at the books that 3 of her eggs were stolen and taken into Essos. But now the show has went down a different path, and I get the show is trying to make Rhaenyra and Daenerys very closely connected. Daenerys is a descendant of Rhaenyra, and now her dragons are the children of Syrax, and perhaps Rhaenyra might be the last person to know about the prince that was promised theory, and Daenerys is the top candidate for that position. I understand what they're trying to do, but I'm just not keen on the fact they're making Syrax the mother of these dragons. I prefer Dreamfire, and her appearance in Season 1 pretty much confirmed that for me, even though a couple years ago I did predict the show would make this change. Is it canon breaking? Perhaps, but for me, it's not a deal breaker. But then again, you have to separate the books from the TV show. But in terms of the final scene with Rhaenyra using Mysarea's contacts and information to sneak into King's Landing, disguised as a septa, to see Alicent in a last-ditch effort to prevent war, mother to mother. And if I'm being honest, I didn't hate this, but I did feel it was forced. The writers definitely wanted to have Rhaenyra and Alicent share one more scene before the Dance of the Dragons. It does make Alicent feel a bit stupid for believing that Viserys changed his mind at last minute and wanted Aegon to be king. He was only reciting the story of Aegon the Conqueror and the Song of Ice and Fire. But of course, it's far too late to turn back. Episode 4 will bring fire and blood. And I want you guys to let me know your thoughts on episode 3. Did you think it was slow-paced, heavy dialogue, canon-breaking? I have questioned the writing choices, but I don't have issues with slower-paced building-up episodes. You need these type of episodes to get to the payoff. I know many fans, they started watching around season 5 where spectacle became more and more important. And then more joined in season 7 and 8, and that's all the show had was spectacle and dragons and oh my god moments. Go back to season 2. It took Stannis 8 episodes of build up to make it to King's Landing in Blackwater episode 9. How would many fans cope with Tyrion and Cersei chatting for 8 episodes? You know what I mean? Many fans just want dragons, and that's kind of alright. This show needs to balance out the importance of dialogue, character development, and your big action scenes. This show is not the books where they can spend pages and pages describing the setting. It's a drama, action fantasy TV show. They just need to remember where they came from, don't forget their roots. And also I kind of felt some of the nudity in this episode was a bit over the top. We've seen a full-on blowjob for God's sake. But guys, not my favourite episode, but far from the worst ever. And it does feature some of my favourite sequences in House of the Dragon with Daemon and Harrenhal. And I'm so glad we didn't get any Alicent and Criston Cole sex scenes this episode. So be thankful for that. Anyways guys, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.